So I was watching a video this morning that is the basis of this episode. Um, and she was just like, I don't give tweak notes anymore. You wouldn't give if you're firing me, you let me go. So I'm like, why would give you 2 week notice? Why give you any courtesy? And so I started thinking about that. Is the 2 week notice dead? I mean, is it a thing? So I was looking up. I was trying to find out. So where did the 2 week notice come from? And my research, it just became this thing in the mid 20th century. It says a modern HR practice and workplace etiquette. Um, Mostly it's an at will employment situation in the U.S. Either party can end however they want to. But I know for many purposes, it was like 2 weeks is a time to find someone to replace you, or you start transitioning the work to someone else. Um, Many said it was good for reputation when it's other jobs. You get to another job, you can say, well, she gave 2 week notice, even though you're quitting and maybe you weren't the greatest employee, but that kind of helps if they did background checks on you. So then HR department started suggesting that in handbooks. It's not law, and it's never been law. That's something. It's never been law. And I said, unless you have it in a contract that says you have to give 2 weeks notice, there's not at all. But I know some union and government jobs you have to. So it's funny about that. I was thinking, yeah, 2 week notice. I remember how I started this whole thing was that because I'd never been fired from a job until recently. I was fired from a job, but it was like fired from a gig, not really I wasn't like I was in a job, but any of the jobs I had never got fired. I always quit. And most of them I gave 2 weeks notice. So as I was leaving this last job to start my whole new life over 17 years ago, um, I remember I gave a month's notice because Marvin was just scared. I was a little scared because I was making this big decision. I was going to move it back to LA. I was leaving San Francisco. I hated my job, but my job was so specific and it was huge. It was a huge management job position that required a lot of paperwork. And I, not to get into the weeds of it so much for you guys, but I was handling regulations from like 30 states. I learned all their law. Like it was a very intense job that I did for like 10 years. So I had done this. It was very intense, and it wasn't going to be easy just to pass over to somebody. So I thought, well, let me give a month's notice so I get a couple of paychecks. That was another thing under the belt. Because I was going to come back to LA. I was coming to LA with no job. I had no job, nothing. I had two gigs set up, two acting gigs set up, but they're like later into I was coming home in January, they're like in February. So I needed some money on me. So um I saw and I was trying to be nice. I really was trying to be nice. And like say, okay, let's and my colleague had a lot of work on it. So I was trying to really work something out so that I can kind of pass it over. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you, my boss slash colleague, my immediate one, I get to him, he tried his best. He did not want me to leave because there was so much work we would fall on him. And he was like, he tried so many different tactics. Like, you work from LA, because you have no job, you still get paid what you're getting paid. I was getting paid good. Just do it in LA. And our offices were down here. I mean, I was just like, so you just go to the main office once in a while, and we can still do it, and keep it going for a while. Maybe just switch you to part time. Now I knew this job was so important and so task oriented, I couldn't do it part time. And I thought about it, though. He gave me an offer that I really thought about. I was like, oh my god! But he was playing on my need for money and security, which was smart. And I don't fault him for that. It was smart. It still helped him out because he was going to literally lose half his office. It was me. Um, and it would still keep things going because they're still busy. And luckily, I had quit. I was quitting after we had a bunch of programs that happened. Now's the kind of like it was the winter period, it was kind of the dead season. We had like one little small thing that he could handle, but like but the next year would start and we were going to start ramping up for the season again. But I knew when I was quitting, I was like, okay, I'll quit now so you get somebody in place to help you with that. Well, anyway, you know what's got me to do it? But then I really started thinking, I'm like, how can I start my life over? Here's something profound for you guys. How can I start my life over if I'm hanging on to pieces of what I used to be? Let's sit on that for a second. It was like, how can I go? I hated the job. It wasn't my passion. I wanted to start over. So it wasn't like I didn't. And so if I liked the job, that would have been a per solution. I go to LA, do the job, just transfer back and forth, just go back and forth. It would have been great. Or if I didn't mind the job, wasn't trying to start over, but I hated the city, I wanted to live somewhere else, it would have worked. But my whole thing was I was tired of the city, I was tired of the job, I wanted to find something for me that was my passion, and that would have gotten away. I wouldn't have been able to fully go for it because I'll be tied and tethered to this job. But there's some good points he made in there. But what it did is it made me go, James, no. It's like you have to leap. Leaping is scary. It is scary for people. You can't do it. But I just said, nope, I'm going to do it. And I said, I'm going to do it. So I said, nope. Well, pissed off a lot of people, including my media boss. And they're like, well, no, you don't get a month. We'll get just about 2 weeks once you're out of here. Okay. I was like, sure, those 2 weeks. And they tried to get me to train somebody who was half listening. I was like, I did work hard until I left. I did try my best to give them all I could. Try to make sure everything was organized so I could read stuff. And I did actually, which was dumb, but I did a couple of times. They had a couple of questions after I left. I said, you could call me. We have a couple of questions. I know this is new. You can call, and I was still friends with that boss. I go, if we need to give a question or two, if I can remember it, call me and I'll answer it. I have no problem with that. Well, that became a whole thing. Was like there was resentment in his voice. I was in LA. He's busy. They didn't hire nobody else. They wanted him to do all the work, and it was kind of like calling me begrudgingly, like, "Well, what's going on there?" Well, I'm just so busy here, and I was like, "Yeah, that didn't work either." So I had to tell him to stop doing that. So I said, "No, I'm not available for calls anymore." I just sent an email like, "Nah, that's not gonna work." I had to really break, and the friendship ended. The company went out of business, so it didn't matter. But it was just kind of like I was giving time to get so people can know what's going on, to get to set stuff up. But there were so many jobs that I had that didn't give. They were like, "We're closing, going out of business. We're going out of business." They didn't give any notice. They're going out of business. I would hear because I had my ears to the ground all the time. But they were just like, "They let people go that day. They had their check ready. Here you go." So that's the question. So the chick in this video is like, if I when they want to fire me, they don't give you 2 weeks notice. They just go, you're fired. Here's your check. Bye. No notice. So why am I giving them notice? And so I was thinking about this whole quiet quitting thing, which I did a blog post on lottahelp.com. Go there for my blog, my daily blog, a few months ago about quiet quitting. I was like, what the fuck was that? So it's kind of funny. So there's all this younger generation is bringing this up where they're just like, we're maybe at work, but there's certain jobs we're just not going to do. We ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. And not making a big deal about it. Just like, nope. They're literally carving the kind of work they are willing to do or not do. And I'm like, in the old days, like that was we were just been fired. Bye. And it was like they just wouldn't have had the choices like that. And they're trying to make better choices. They want work-life balance, all this stuff. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. So the 2 week notice, you know what? I'm kind of with. I think now because nowadays, does anybody really, really do? When I do get every once in a blue moon, once every 2 or 3 years, someone will call for a reference. It used to be really a lot before, but in the last 6, 7, 10 years, I don't get that many people calling for a reference. I think most people they hire, they see your resume, they probably half look at your resume half the time. If it looks impressive, they go from there. It's all about selling yourself, personality, and everything. I think nowadays, well, you don't want to burn bridges, no, but you try to be, especially in certain industries, be careful because some of these industries are small and people have big mouths. So I say for some people, be careful with some industries. But no, but I think for the most part, though, I think people just don't. They understand people leave jobs all the time. These next generations just don't look at that as heavily because now they're the bosses. Um, I wouldn't either look at that much. If I was when I hire people, I look at just who are they, how they are, how they seem to me, their feeling, how they how they seem to me. And I go from there. But I'm just thinking, yeah, that whole 2 week notice. A lot of times it is awkward too because the part of you, do you want this if someone's leaving on because they hate the job, do you want that disgruntled employee still working for you? I get it. Do you want them still access to your secrets? They can sabotage you. They can talk crap about you to customers with a customer service job. They can have ass jobs. So I'm like, I kind of get it. Like, why would you want somebody there who doesn't want to be there? So I would say, so I'm saying, I guess I'm coming around to the whole just screw 2 week notice. Just tell them I'm quitting. Um, Today's my last day, or tomorrow will be my last day. I need my, you send me my check, right? It's if they can handle when they fire somebody, not having somebody in place, they can handle if you quit with somebody in place. It's the same one half dozen the other. So I think I'm coming around to the 2 week, no 2 week notice either. Unless you love, well, see, that thing, another thing is also the second thing that people don't talk about very much. You actually are a beloved member of the thing, and maybe you're retiring, maybe you are changing careers or changing jobs, you got a better job offer, but you're well liked and there's nothing bad going on. Maybe you want to get the 2 week notice so you can say goodbye to all your friends because you like working there and maybe you need the money, so you want to get that 2 weeks, that money. And then and so I think in those cases it might be good. I'm sorry, your bosses don't want you to leave, so like, come please stay for 2 weeks. I mean, there is that side too. That might be something also. It's just think about all my jobs where I gave that 2 week notice. I did, and sometimes they were so painful. Some of those 2 weeks, oh, they're just painful. And other times they were fine. I remember when I left. When I left another city, when I left Sacramento to go to San Francisco, I gave 2 week notice to my job, the Bread Storm. They had demoted me and all this stuff, just all this crazy backstage crap that was going on. But it was funny because I should go into that a little bit. So I was in management, and they like my management style because I wouldn't rule with fear. I got people were doing what they were doing. We were making money and stuff, but they didn't like my management style. So people got in charge. They decided to demote me. They have power. They're power hungry, and people get a little bit of power. And they go crazy. I don't care about that kind of stuff. So I was like, have at it. What they did do though is for me, they gave me a Monday through this is for food service, Monday through Friday, like 9 to 5, like something really, or like it was like either 8 to 4, like something really amazing for food service. And I got paid a decent wage. I lived 2 blocks down the street. I was like, okay, so my last like 6 months at that place, I wasn't upset because I was like, okay, I'm making money, and but then I changed my whole life and moved to San Francisco. So that's the reason why I left. I probably would have still been there. Like, okay. I was like, I had weekends off, nights off. I could do whatever I want. So it's kind of like that was like really for food service. Anybody who's in food service or retail, you know what I'm talking about. You don't normally get those kind of positions. Um, and it was funny. The first show I got in San Francisco, because I left there, first I went to San Francisco, a place called Cafe Salmagundi, and that place was gone now. But it was a Monday through Friday job also because it was in the business district. So it was only open when the business, and we only did breakfast and lunch. We didn't do dinner. So we were there early, so I'd get like it'd be like 6 to 3 shift, 6 to 2 shift. I'd work. And then I'd leave, and then people come in the afternoon, they they work like 4 to clean up or whatever. So I always open, I didn't close. And so that was a Monday through Friday job too. And I was like, oh, Monday through Friday, weekends off, because we were they weren't at their office, we weren't there either. I'm like, that I would have stayed there too. There were some issues, inter office issues that happened, and I was like, I left. I actually just quit, and then I got another job when I looked for another job. And it's funny that day, I quit with no job, new to San Francisco. I was there maybe 4 or 5 months, new to San Francisco, and this is back in the '90s. And I remember we were across street from a outdoor indoor mall. It was called Embarcadero in San Francisco. We've been to San Francisco, and you know it. And I went over there. There's a place called Camelot Music. I was just walking, and I was like, I just work in a record store. Oh my god, So I was in LA. So I went to Camelot Music, and they said they didn't have one at that location, but they had openings in their other location. which was out in South San Francisco. And that time I didn't know where it was. Oh, it was South San Francisco. I don't know what it is. And back then, the BART didn't extend all the way out. There was just their subway service. So because I needed a job, I got on a bus, let's BART to the end of the line, and then took a bus that went through the whole city of Daly City. It was like it was great. I'm like, what? It's like the suburbs. Like, what is? I've never been out there. It was foggy and cold. I had no idea. I get to the end of the mall called Ceremony Center, and I walked in and I got a job. Literally, well, they interviewed me. I went home, and then by the time I got home, I messaged my voicemail saying, "You came in, you got the job." I had a job the next day, but I had to find a way to go out there. Eventually, I got a car and the whole thing. It was a whole thing, but it was just kind of like it's. I wish jobs were that easy like they used to be, right? Um, but again, it's and that one I worked all kinds of shifts and crazy things, but but I survived. But that one I quit. Didn't give him 2 weeks notice. I said bye. I just quit and like it was just so bad. And then from that job, I didn't get 2 weeks notice either. They had some shenanigans happening towards me, and I quit that one too. And it was funny. Before I quit, though, I got another job. I would get these jobs, just get these jobs. It was so easy in the '90s. And I remember a friend of my friend said they're hiring in the city. Back in the city, we're hiring at a place called Headlines, and that's how I lived there. But I didn't get 2 weeks notice now either. I said, "F you," and I left. I was like, that's one of the few times I ever did that. I mean, those 2 times because I always gave notice. I was always like, I don't want anything to come back to bite me. Oh, like screw y'all, everybody, whatever. So highly professional, of course. Now, I was so young, but yeah. But any other jobs, usually I gave notice, and but now with my own stuff that I do, everything's at will. You can say no, I might come back. You want to quit? I want to quit on a job or whatever. He's like, nope, it's at will. I like that best. Just clean. Go out of business. I'll send you your money. You have 2 weeks to give me my money or a week to give me my money. It's all built in the contracts. I love that. So, but I had a guy who was working for me and he decided he needed to change his life with me for the first 11 years. And he was wonderful. Oh, he's my great assistant. And then but he gave like a month or two notice. So, because he was taking his time getting himself together, but he's still working for me. And that was good too. I was like, dang it. That was a good one. What do you think? Are you about 2 week notices? You think it still should be something in place, or is that now antiquated? Is it better just to like if you're disgruntled, go. We'll figure it out and get somebody in who won't be disgruntled. Or are you like I like the standard? Give me 2 weeks so I can work this out. Screw you. You tell me. AlotofHelp.com is the website. A lot of helps on Facebook. I'm James Lott Jr. Talk to you next time.